Hello ladies and gentlemen, my name is Blue Whale and welcome back to another patch analysis. Today we're going to be talking about patch 6.11, but before we get started, I know my uploads have been very infrequent recently. I'm just really busy, so I'm not going to say any schedule is going to get started anytime soon. If you guys didn't know, I am working 2 jobs right now, and then in my free time I do like to spend it with my friends because it's summer. But I'm just trying to get videos out as much as I can. The reason that I'm so busy now is because hopefully come fall I'll be able to move into a better place and start streaming, so it should pay off in the long run, but in the short term videos are just gonna come out as often as I can, which isn't gonna be that often. But anyways, let's go ahead and get started with the patch notes. Now this patch, not really that big of a patch. They pretty much hit the really OP champions, nerf them, and the really weak champions, they buff those. I mean, that's pretty much what happened. We will, of course, read through all of it, but just a TLDW. Too long didn't watch. If you want to know, that's what they did. Fix the bug with Skarner, not really that important. Anivia, they nerfed her R a little bit. Anivia was really... she was really strong. I still think she's pretty good as long as the people know how to play Anivia. It's not like she's super OP, you play her and you get a free win, but if you know what you're doing, Anivia is pretty good after that buff to her ult, so that's why they nerfed her a little bit. I played against one Anivia. I haven't even played that many games in this patch, but I played against one Anivia. She did really well, but we did end up winning, so you know, take it as it is. I don't think Anivia is super broken, and I don't think that this made her a really bad champion. I think it was just kind of a do nerf. Now Azir, they super nerfed Azir, and honestly, I wouldn't be playing Azir if I were you guys. Like, I've heard some people say he's still good. I think he's awful right now, but you know. Anyways, what they did to Azir is, one, they made it to where he can't push turrets with his W anymore. If you didn't know, before he could cast W on turrets and it would just do a flat instant burst to the turret, and that's why Azir was so quick at pushing lanes. And then they also made his ult's duration go way down, and also no longer give bonus movement speed to allies when they pass through it. So they pretty much, what they're doing with these changes is they're making Azir's kit only about sending out his soldiers and poking. They're kind of taking away from a lot of this awesome diversity that he had on this kit. They're kind of like narrowing it down, which might sound kind of like a good thing, but it's an awful thing for Azir himself, so it's a huge nerf to Azir. Corki, they buffed Corki's R ratio. Corki has been like at the bottom of ADC win rates for a while, ever since they changed his passive. Maybe this will help him a little bit, but I don't know. It is a pretty significant buff, I guess. It's 0.2 total attack damage up at max rank, which when you're talking about total attack damage, that's a pretty big deal. When you talk about bonus attack damage, it'd be a little bit worse, but total attack damage, it's a significant buff. So we'll see. We'll see if it helps him. I think he's been needing some buffs, so maybe these will help him out. Echo, this is probably why most of you guys clicked on this video. I don't know for sure because I haven't played Echo, because I haven't played that much, but it seems to me like this is the death of Tank Echo. I mean, I can't 100% confirm it. I did have one Tank Echo on my team that went top. He did awful, of course. And I mean, if you just look at the numbers, it just looks like Tank Echo would be really bad now. I mean, the past 4 patches, they've been nerfing it and nerfing it and nerfing it. And now they finally made a big nerf, which is his cooldown on the same target. It makes it a lot harder to stick to targets. They once again lowered the bases, but they increased the ability power ratios. They way lowered his stun duration, and they once again lowered some ratios and buffed the ability power. I mean, lowered some flat damage, buffed the ratios. So I mean, I already thought on the past patch that Echo Tank wasn't really that good, but now this is just such a huge nerf to it. It's a lot different playstyle than I was used to playing Echo as. I'll have to kind of relearn him, because now I think the best way to play Echo is definitely as a mostly assassin, maybe get a few defensive items so you don't instantly die, but it's more about now skirting in, killing a target, and getting out of the fight, which is what I think they wanted Echo's kit to be in the first place. But I don't know. It's a really, really big nerf to tank echo. As far as damage echo, it's still a nerf to that too. I know they increased some of the ratios, but they took away half a second of stun from him, and I mean this also affects damage echo. So for the most part, really big nerf to echo in general, and it's much larger nerf to tank echo than damage echo. Damage echo pretty much, as I see it, would be the only good way to play echo, but I haven't even played that much. So if you guys, you know, you can tell me if you've had different success with echo, but just according to me, what I'm reading here and what I had experienced with echo in the past couple of patches, it's not looking good for tank echo as of now. Now Alawi, they gave her another buff because every single time Alawi's in the patch notes, she's getting buffed because she was a bad champion. Honestly, seems like she hasn't been that bad as long as people know how to play Alawi, but also if you know how to play versus Alawi, she's pretty easy to deal with. So I don't know if these buffs are going to make her really good, but they certainly are buffs overall. They gave a W ratio a little bit different. The slow duration, even though it's down, it no longer decays, which is a really big deal. And also this increases all technical damage. So I mean, overall, it's a lot of buffs to Alawi, and they've been buffing her over and over and over. So maybe she'll be viable now, but I don't know. Her kit is so easy to work around, and if you guys don't know how to play versus Alawi, you need to pick a mobile champion. If you're on an immobile champion, you either need to get Zonia's or have flash up a lot. But basically, all you have to do is you can dodge her Q pretty easy. Her Q is not a hard skill shot to dodge. Her E, the best way to deal with it is just to run away as fast as you can. Once again, you need to be mobile. But the main thing about Alawi is when they ult, you just leave the ultimate, because it's not like the ultimate comes with her. You know, it's the area that she ults. So if you just walk away and then come back, because Alawi doesn't have any escapes either. So if you just leave the ult and then come back when it's over, she's pretty easy to deal with. So because of that, it's going to take a lot of buffs to make her actually good, to where she's just, you know, OP. So we'll see. We'll see if these did it. I don't know if they did, but maybe. I haven't even seen any Alawis. I've only played like, I think 6 games on this patch or something. Jax, they buffed Jax, and they also, which I mentioned this in the title, but this plus the Triforce buff makes Jax really good in lane. Now the reason that Jax isn't that good in the jungle is because junglers don't get as much gold as laners as a general rule, and that's always been a rule of jungling. Sure, sometimes you'll get really fed in games and you will happen to get more gold than your teammates, but usually junglers will have, you know, right under what solo laner gold would be. So that's why Jax would be better as a solo laner, because he has really expensive items on his kit. You have to get a Triforce, you have to get a Gunsos, and you have to get a Gunblade, and those are all over 3,000 gold items, so it's really expensive. However, if you do get those, he is really strong, especially in top lane. You take teleport, you're a split pushing maniac, and I mean, this is just even more buff. Like the Triforce buff alone was a buff to Jax, but this helps him even more. So Jax, very strong. I don't think he's that great in the jungle just because his build is so expensive. That's the only thing that's wrong with him. Kindred, they nerfed Kindred. Praise the Lord. I know the last in-depth guide was of Kindred on the channel, but I don't care. I really don't like Kindred. So what they did to Kindred, champion mark cooldown went down, and they added in a jungle cheerleader. So they kind of reworked her passive. I didn't actually read. I was more focused on the nerf part, but we'll read through her reworked passive, or their reworked passive. From 0 to 2 marks, Wolf will only mark Rift Scuttlers or Razorbeaks, which is Raptors, which I talked about in the in-depth guide. These are 2 things that you would always want to go for, so that's pretty cool. 3 to 4 marks, it's either Krugs, Razorbeaks, Gromp, or Merc Wolves. Merc Wolves, aka Wolves, are definitely the hardest ones to get to, so if that happens, you're kind of screwed, but any of these, those are pretty easy to get to, so that's pretty cool. For 5 to 7 marks, it'll mark buffs. I don't know if it ever marked buffs before. It'll mark Rift Herald or the dragons, and then 7+ marks, it only marks the epic monsters. So that's pretty cool. It's kind of nice that they actually tell you how it's going to work now, because before it was a little bit random. So that should make things a lot more clear for playing as Kindred or playing versus Kindred. So even if you guys don't like playing Kindred at all, you should still know these things, so you know where her mark will be coming up. You know, if you're versus a Kindred and you see that they have 3 to 4 marks, try to keep all of these dead, and then Wolf won't get anything to mark. So it's good for both playing as Kindred and playing versus it. So I like this. It adds a lot more clarity. And you guys know I hate RNG in League. Like the whole Elemental Dragon things, I hated that. Kindred's mark was RNG. I don't like that. So some clarity is nice. Q, they lowered the base damage, but now it increases with your stacks, which is, you know, obviously it makes it a little bit harder to get your stacks, but once you get your stacks, it'll be a little bit stronger eventually, probably. Or, okay, it increases by 5 per stack, and you would have to get it 45, which is 9 stacks. So to get back up to the damage where you had it before, you would have to get 9 stacks on Kindred, which is pretty high. It's not super high, but it's, you know, if you're having a bad game, you're not going to get 9 stacks. So there you go. There's that fun fact for you. And then E, they lowered the slow. I did mention this in the in-depth guide that I thought this was coming. And the damage got lowered at early ranks, which actually is a pretty big nerf to it because you max E last, which, as we talked about in the Kindred in-depth guide, that's only because you want your Q so much. So pretty big nerfs on both of these. I mean, 9 stacks. You'd have to get 10 stacks to benefit from this. And then this is just straight up a nerf. There's no way to look positive at this. But I do like the passive change. And I mean, I do like all of the changes because I don't like Kindred being a good champion. So it's all good with me. Lucian. They nerfed Lucian. I'm not an AD carry player, but I do watch I'm a Cutie Pie a lot. And judging from his streams, I learned that Lucian was like the best AD carry for a couple of patches now. So they gave him some long dude nerfs. His Q range is down, the ratio is down, and it's a little more clear, which is good when you're versus Lucian. And then your W range is down. And also they bug fixed his passive, which I don't think many people were getting Hurricane or Rage Blade on him, but can't abuse that anymore. So for the most part, I mean, not for the most part, these are nerfs to Lucian. And as far as I know, Lucian was really, really good on these past couple of patches, so he needed some nerfs. So there you go. Get a little more diversity in the bot lane. Maokai, they nerfed Maokai again. They always do. You know, he was not... I don't know, he was kind of weak, and then they gave him MR per level, and that's why Maokai got really OP, and now they've been nerfing him ever since. You know, you think they maybe could have just lowered his MR per level and not changed everything else on his kit, but that's kind of how Riot does things. So, once again, Maokai in the patch notes, it's kind of like a Lowy. If she's in it, she's getting buffed. If Maokai's in it, he's getting nerfed. His health regen's down, his health regen growth is down, and his Q, now you have to actually max it to get a cooldown, which isn't that bad because you did max his Q first anyways, but still. They're definitely nerfs, and I don't like it because Maokai's always been one of my favorite champions. I also don't like that they've made Maokai a laner, like, period. He used to be so much fun to jungle as when he was good at it, but now he's just a laner. Meh. You know, right? It's their game. They do what they want. Talking about games, I've been playing Overwatch a lot lately, and if you guys play Overwatch and you want to know who I play, it's Reinhardt. That really shouldn't be that surprising to you guys if you pay attention to whenever I say, you know, I really like playing tanks in League. Reinhardt, definitely my favorite to play in Overwatch. Overwatch has been pretty fun. That's also, not gonna lie, it's part of the reason my videos haven't been coming out that often, because I've been playing Overwatch with my friends. So, sorry about that too. But anyways, nerfs to Nidalee. You know, I love that too, because I hate Nidalee as well, and I don't even play Nidalee, and I'm never gonna play Nidalee. She's just not my type of champion. But they way lowered her movement speed bonus while moving towards champions, which is pretty good. And I mean, if you're playing Nidalee, it sucks, but for me, it's a good thing. And then her W pounce, it's only as effective as it was at level 16, because if you didn't know, this scales with ranks of your ult. So at rank 1 of your ult, or you haven't ranked it, 40 and level 6, level 11, 60 is 11, and 70 is level 16. So pounce isn't nearly as effective early game, which is pretty good. It'll slow down her jungle clear, and it'll make Nidalee a little bit easier to deal with if you're not playing her. If you do like playing Nidalee, sorry, they're really big nerfs. Rise, his Q damage down, his R cooldown is up. Rise is kind of, yeah, like this pretty much describes Rise as he was in a nutshell. If you know how to play Rise, you're going to win the game. But not a lot of people know how to play Rise. So they're pretty much nerfing Rise to get rid of some of that complete dominance. 20 base damage, pretty big deal on such a spam heavy champion. I mean, that 20 adds up because you use your Q so often. And then R, I mean, that's a really big nerf too. 20 seconds at max rank is a pretty big deal. Swain, they nerfed Swain. Swain, ever since they buffed his... at the first rework, he wasn't OP, but then when they reworked his ult again a little bit, he got really OP. And now they've been nerfing Swain a little bit. His Q damage is down just a shade at max rank, only 10 per second. But once again, when it's per second, that adds up a lot. I mean, I don't know how long Q stays up, but even if it stays up for 3 seconds, it's 30 damage off, which is even more than they did with Rise. As a reference, it's a pretty big nerf. Okay, and then base heal against champions went down. But it does scale with 1.12, which it apparently did last patch, but they said it wrong. But anyways, base heal is down, which means it'll be a little bit more easy to deal with Swain unless he builds more ability power, which is kind of not what Swain was doing. If you didn't know what Swain was doing, he was pretty much building like Rod of Ages and full tank items, and then you just couldn't kill him. And he had enough CC with his Q, slow link, his root, all that stuff to where he was a big menace in fights, and that's why he was really strong. So they hit some of that. Fine with me. I mean, I like Swain as a champion, but I don't play the roles that Swain is in. Like Swain isn't a jungler, and as far as mid is usually my secondary, and I usually just play Fizz if I can, so I don't really play Swain, but I think he's a cool champion. Talia, same thing as Alawi. Talia sucks, so they buffed her. Really, I don't think Talia is that bad. I think it's a lot more. I mean, we mentioned this when she came out, which was last patch. I said don't play Talia because she's extremely difficult. I think that's most of the problem. She's just a really hard champion, and when people learn how to play her, it will be a little bit better. But they are buffing her anyways, because if you look at champion.gg, which is a website I've recommended to you guys a lot, Talia is like the lowest win rate in every single role that you could possibly play Talia. So she needed some buffs, and that's what these are. Vel'Koz, this is another major buff that, oh god, you guys know every time we've talked about Vel'Koz, I've said, oh my god, Vel'Koz is OP, but he really wasn't. But they addressed that here. Now he really, I swear, he's actually really strong this time. So his Q slow duration went up, which is a pretty big deal, but the important part is his ult, as always. The ult that does true damage if they're deconstructed, but his ult before, it couldn't actually apply stacks of his passive, so it was a little bit hard to work around, but now it can. So basically what happens with Vel'Koz is if he has his ult, if you get hit with 2 of his spells, he just ults you. The ult will apply the 3rd stack almost instantly. I mean, it's 0.7 seconds it'll apply the 3rd stack, and then you're going to start taking true damage. And they did lower the damage a little bit, but I mean 800 true damage, plus it scales with AP. They didn't write that here, but it does. It's pretty hard to deal with. So if you're versus a Vel'Koz, just make sure that you're on a mobile champion, honestly, because if he gets 2 stacks of his passive on you, he's just going to ult you, and then it's so much damage. So I played against one earlier today. Don't remember if I won or lost, but I know that it was so annoying to deal with. So Vel'Koz is really strong. Zed, they say it's a nerf, but it's pretty much a buff. What they did was they lowered the base damage and they lowered the ratio, but they increased the damage per additional shuriken. So before, if you got hit with 2 shurikens, the second one would only do 50% damage. Now it does 75% damage, which is a pretty big percentage. So they didn't lower these amounts enough to compensate for this huge of a percentage. So if you're playing against a good Zed that can hit multiple shurikens on you at the same time, you're going to be taking more damage than you were before. So overall, I have to say it's a buff for Zed. Ahri, they her tails now move realistically. Who cares? And this, they made his Q have different animations. So that's pretty much it. They gave Nidalee a bunch of new skins, and now we'll move on to items. That's not pretty much it. Boots of Swiftness. They didn't do the whole change I thought they were going to do, but I still think overall Boots of Mobility are better than Boots of Swiftness, especially on junglers. So Boots of Swiftness, now they're only 55 movement speed, and I'm pretty sure regular boots give you 45 movement speed, so it's really not that much more. I mean, of course it's more, but it's not that much more movement speed, and they're really expensive, and I don't know. I don't think they're that great. Maybe on some champions, or maybe in lane, they might be better, but as far as junglers, before, if you were going Boots of Swiftness, I'd probably recommend Boots of Mobility, especially. So the thing about this is, if you're playing a champion that you're going to build other movement speed items on. So for this example, I'm going to use Elise, right? On Elise, you're going to get whatever boots you get. You're going to get Runic Echoes, which gives you movement speed, and you might even get a Lich Bane, which also gives you movement speed. So in that case, Boots of Mobility would be way better than Boots of Swiftness, because even when the Boots of Mobility passive is off, you still have all that increased movement speed to where you're pretty much normal. Now, if you're playing a champion that isn't going to build any movement speed items, oh yeah, and Dead Man's Plate too. Consider Dead Man's Plate, but maybe you're playing like, I don't know, you're just not going to build any movement speed items, not even Dead Man's Plate, then you might want to go Boots of Swiftness in that case. But for the most part, if you're building any other movement speed items, Mobos are better than Boots of Swiftness, in my opinion. Berserker Greaves, the attack speed is up. Some of you guys were asking about this for Kindred. Should you start building these on Kindred? I don't think so. I think you should go Boots of Mobility to grab your marks, and you get enough attack speed through your other items. But if you want to, you can. I mean, you can try it out, and if you have success with it, keep doing it. But me personally, I don't think they're better than Boots of Mobility on Kindred. And as far as any other jungler, really, this is a marksman in the bot lane buff. This doesn't really affect too many junglers, to be honest. Ninja Tabby, they buffed Ninja Tabby, which is pretty cool. I mean, honestly, like, they're saying you don't see Ninja Tabby anywhere. The only time that Ninja Tabby are good, even with this, the only reason you would buy Ninja Tabby is if you're versus a lot of auto attackers, and that's when people do buy Ninja Tabby. This is a lie. You do see Ninja Tabby when they're good, but they're rarely ever good than Merc Treads, because Merc Treads give you tenacity. So, I mean, it's neat, but this, if you're versus a team with CC, you're still going to want Merc Treads over Ninja Tabby, and the only time you want Ninja Tabby is if they have a lot of AD. So in those cases, yeah, Ninja Tabby are going to benefit you more, but do I think you should build Ninja Tabby that much more often? No, not really. Triforce, here's another really big part of this patch. They made Triforce build out of Stinger instead of Zeal, so now it gives you 20% CDR. The total cost went down, and the attack speed went way up. Now, and they also removed crit chance, but what this does is it really benefits bruisers that would build Trinity Force, and it really hinders ADCs that would be building Trinity Force. Like they mentioned, Jax and Irelia, both of those champions are very strong in this patch. Jax especially, you got another buff, but Irelia honestly is ban worthy on this patch, and if you guys like playing Irelia, she's really good because of this Trinity Force change. Basically, I mean, long story short, all I can say is it way benefits the bruisers that would build it. And as far as AD carries are concerned, maybe it's a little better on a few, like maybe Vayne, or you know, those ones that really need to auto attack a lot, but for the most part, bruisers have a play day now with Trinity Force. So big buff to Trinity Force depending on what you play. Stinger, the cost and attack speed went down, which is fine. I mean, you know, whatever. I guess the reason they did this was to make it fit with the Trinity Force, and I mean, they didn't change the final speed of these items. You know, they still have the same attack speed and the same total cost, so it's really not that big of a deal at all. You know, I mean, obviously it makes the item a little bit weaker. We've talked about this before, where if they majorly lower stats, even if they make the item cheaper, it's a worse item. But for the most part, since this is gonna build. Since these two items still have the same stats, it's really not that big a deal. And it did buff Triforce a lot, so, you know, it's fine. Wits End, they made it costless. That's pretty cool. As far as Wits End goes, a lot of people are asking about this on the Kindred Guide too, and my general opinion on Wits End is that it's not good to buy on any champion unless if 1, your verses are really fed AP, or 2, your verses just a ton of AP champions. Then you can build Wits End, but for the most part, it's really not that big a deal. It's not that great of an item, so I would only buy it in those situations. And then now, bunch of crap that's not really that important. You guys can come read this crap on your own, but that's pretty much it for this patch. So not a huge patch, but there were definitely some significant changes, some very big champion changes, and I hope I could shed some light for you guys. So once again, thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.